for now. They should be off.
Ted turned one on for him to speak through.
Okay, this one. Hi, I'm Beth. I'm Shaker or Hugger?
Either one.
I'm gonna go home. So get on in here. I wasn't.
My wife.
Your wife? What's your name? Sean? Shauna. All right.
I'm Jessie.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Let me get that hat before you leave.
That's why the hat on.
I need a haircut too. My wife says at this point I look like a hippie when my hair starts getting this long. It's kind of hard to see with your hair.
You want to sit over here? This is so pretty.
It's such an honor to welcome you all here tonight for an incredible forum as we get a chance to be able to sit and hear about justice, mercy, and just searching for truth. So as we get a chance tonight, we have this incredible panel. Emmy Award-winning, Oscar-nominated, incredible Beth Shelburne. Thank you for being here. We have this panel of activists and heroes here in our midst. From Casey Keaton being the one that's doing the senior litigation for Rocky, thank you. For Miriam, thank you so much for the way that you continue to seek out and research justice and investigate justice. And Leah Nelson, thank you. Thank you for this incredible opportunity and showcasing the way that you do the research and investigating and consulting. We're honored to have you all here. Thank you for being here, and thank you for all that are connecting online. We're going to have a chance to open with prayer, and as we do, we're just going to open with silence. If you would be able to come and join with me in a time of asking God just to hear our thoughts, hear our prayers, hear our groans for justice. So if you would, let us pray. You hear the cry of the needy. You come and usher in justice in unjust systems and in brokenness. You're the one that gives courage and boldness. And you're the one that gives us all this opportunity tonight to stand. To stand with family. To stand in the midst of injustice. You, oh God, are the God that ushers in justice and peace and wholeness. You are so welcome in this conversation and in this forum tonight. We honor you. It's in your name we pray. Amen, Jesus.
A lot of the work that I do covers but my microphone was not on. Now it is. Okay. I can talk without a microphone, but I'll trust that you'll adjust the levels. Yes, okay. So again, thank you all for being here to listen and to learn about Rocky Myers, because Rocky is, yes, in prison. He has gone through this terrible injustice, but he is one of us. He is a child of God. He is a father and a grandfather, a brother, a son, a friend to everyone who knows him. He is an Alabama citizen, and we are here to support him, to learn about what more we can do to right this wrong. A little bit about Rocky, and the people here know him a lot better than I do. I don't know him at all. I know his case, and I have followed this story. But just to give you a glimpse of a little bit about Rocky and who he is. He is 65 years old today. Today is Rocky's birthday, and we will celebrate that at the end of this event. But 65 years old, and he spent over 30 years on Alabama's death row for a crime that he did not commit, that he was wrongfully convicted for. The evidence of his innocence so strong that Governor Kay Ivey looked at it and decided that she could not stand by with him being executed, that the evidence of his innocence was so strong she granted clemency, something that has only happened in our state 3 times. So clemency was a victory, but unfortunately in Alabama, it just relieved Rocky from being executed. He is in prison now serving a life without parole sentence, and that's really the only thing that our clemency structure allows. So he is still trapped in prison. He is alive, and we are grateful for that, but he is still trapped in prison for a crime that he did not commit. So this is still an ongoing injustice. There is still a legal fight going on to right this terrible wrong, and that's what we're gonna learn more about tonight. It's why it's so important that you are all here, because this story isn't over, and we are all a part of this. When the state tries people, they do it in our name, the people of Alabama. And so we all have a stake in making sure that that system works the way that it is supposed to, that people are treated like human beings, and that when there is an injustice, we have the courage to learn about it and speak out, to hold the system accountable. That's what we can do as regular citizens, no matter who is in the crosshairs of the injustice. I believe it's on all of us to speak out. So again, thank you for being here to be empowered with the knowledge that these folks have about Rocky's case, so you can bring what you learned to your families and your communities to talk about this. That is really what I believe turns the tide in this kind of injustice, because the system isn't going to do it. We have to do it as people. Just a quick snapshot of this case. Rocky Myers was convicted in 1994 of capital murder. This crime occurred in 1991, several years prior, and it involved the brutal murder of another Alabama citizen who happened to be an elderly white woman. Her name was Ludie Mae Tucker. And this injustice does not just impact Rocky Myers and his family, but also her family. Because when the wrong person is sent to prison, that's an injustice for the victim as well. There is no forensic evidence connecting Rocky Myers to this crime. None. He was not the original suspect who was arrested for this crime. The case against Rocky is based on testimony from unreliable witnesses who changed their stories over and over again, one of them actually admitting under oath to lying to police. The jury in this trial did vote to convict Rocky, but they then voted 9-3 to spare his life, to sentence him to life without parole. But at the time, the judge was allowed to override the jury's determination and sentenced Rocky to death. That is a practice that is now illegal in the state of Alabama, but there are 30-some people still on death row who were sentenced to death by a judge even when the jury voted for life. One of the jurors in Rocky's case has taken a very proactive stance, explaining why she voted for guilt. She didn't believe that Rocky was guilty. She didn't believe there was evidence there to prove his guilt, but ultimately several jurors agreed to vote for guilt and then life without parole to spare his life. They thought that that was the best option that they had at the time, because this was really set from the get-go that he was guilty, and it was a foregone conclusion that the jury would vote for guilt. So let's talk about where things are right now and what more we all can learn tonight about what we can do to help right this wrong. I want to have the panelists quickly introduce themselves. You guys can introduce yourselves better than I can. Leah.
Can everyone hear me? I think I probably need to hit the same button.
Yeah. We probably all have to turn our buttons on.
Ah, the one that says on. All right, can you guys hear me? Can you hear me now? Fascinating. La la la. I don't know how these work. You can hear me now? Yes. Okay, awesome. My name is Leah Nelson. I worked for Casey for a very long time, and I am an independent. I'm now an independent researcher and consultant, and that's the role I've played on Rocky's case. So I've been on the case in some capacity for about 12 years.
I'm Casey Keaton. I'm an attorney and assistant federal defender in Montgomery, and my work is on the Capital Habeas Unit. Rocky is a client of mine for the past 20 years. I have represented him, and I say Capital Habeas Attorney. People usually don't know what that means, and I will tell you that Rocky just calls me his death row lawyer. So that is what I do, and I've done for the past 20 years, is representing people on Alabama's death row through their federal appeals.
My name is Miriam Bankston, and I am the chief investigator at the Federal Public Defender's Office in Montgomery with Casey, and I work exclusively with individuals who are on Alabama's death row, and for the last few years I've had the absolute honor with working with Rocky Myers.
Thank you all. And I know I mentioned it off the top that this extraordinary development happened in this case last year with Governor Kay Ivey granting clemency. It felt like an absolute miracle, but it is really because of the work that these women have put into this case. So thank y'all for that work. So Casey, I'll start with you. You've represented Rocky for over 2 decades. Tell us a little bit about what that has been like and why you have been so tenacious fighting for him.
Well, I would like to say that I think that our office does that for all of our clients. But Rocky is a special client, I have to acknowledge. And I love that you started and introduced him as the person that he is, as a son, a father, a brother, a grandfather, a great-grandfather.
Oh, wow.
And I would throw in things about him. He's a huge sports fan. He is an avid fan of the New York Knicks. So props up. He was really excited this year. All the New York teams, New York Giants, New York Yankees, and he will tell you all the reasons why to not be a fan of the Dallas Cowboys and the Boston Red Sox. And he is kind and loving and gets literally sick to his stomach when someone else is suffering or in pain, and is just an incredible, beautiful spirit of a human being. And it has been an honor to be able to represent him, and representing him and visiting with his family for these past 2 decades. He is a lot more like family than a client at this point, and that is why it was an incredible gift to be able to call him and give him news because in December of 2024, I had to give him the news that the state was seeking an execution date for him. And then we had to let him know that the Alabama Supreme Court had issued a warrant for his execution. And to be able to follow that up with the news that the governor had granted him clemency was incredible. And there's a video on YouTube about it because we took a video, but we were able to, Miriam and I happened to be in the same place, interestingly, at a conference about clemency. And, and we became the stars of the conference for a whole 2 days. But to be able to join and have Leandrew, his son, on the phone. So we had 2 phones in the air so that they could hear from each other. And you don't get moments like that doing work in Alabama on the death penalty, anywhere on the death penalty. And to have that gift, it was incredible. But I think the important piece is that is a small measure of justice. Rocky is owed full justice. We can't give him that. He has lost 35 years of his life incarcerated. But I believe and I hope and I pray that there is space for us to give him some additional measure of justice, because he does have a family at home that would love to have him home with them.
Yeah. Thank you. And everyone, I do recommend that you Google that video of these 2 women telling Rocky that over the phone, that the governor granted clemency. It's really a beautiful moment. I've watched it several times. It's nice to find hopeful moments like that because they are rare, especially in Alabama. Miriam, so you have worked on the investigations into this case, and there's a lot of problems with the conviction against Rocky that we'll talk about. But some of the things that have been discovered since clemency was granted have been really shocking. What made you decide to go back and dig into the history of this case once again?
Sorry, I keep turning it off and then back on. I think that when looking at his case, I think that over the last 20 years that Casey and others from our office have represented him, they have tried in every instance to bring these issues to light through legal filings and through whatever else. And the longer backstory is that some of those arguments and so on were not able to be heard in federal court. And I think that we always knew that his trial counsel had represented the Klan and had maybe gut feelings that he himself was a member of the United Klans of America. But I don't think we were ever able to find anything to corroborate that. And so I think that is something that was missing, I think, in the legal narrative, in what we were able to file. And so closer in time to when clemency was granted, that is when, through an archivalnewspapers.com search, that we were able to place Mr. Myers' trial counsel at various Klan rallies, stating his allegiance to the Klan and their beliefs, and using language that, you get it. And it was reflective of the way that he spoke about Mr. Myers at his own trial. And so I think that after clemency was granted, that I don't think for any of us that was ever going to be enough to say, okay, well, he's not going to be executed, but we're okay with this innocent man spending the rest of his life in prison. That was never an option to say, okay, and to leave it at that. And so kind of continue down that path, and with the research and then the additional research and investigation that Leah has done since, really just, I think, became this thing that we just could not let go. And it was a real opportunity to put this before the district attorney and put this before a judge in a way that particular issue had not been done before. And so, I think what I think about a lot, and this is like just a personal example, but I went to a medical professional once, right? And it was very clear to me that that individual was racist. And I decided that I no longer wanted to see that medical professional. And I went and got a new doctor, right? And I have the ability to do that because I am free, because I have health insurance, because I have resources and money and things like that. And I think too often we tell our impoverished neighbors and community members that they have to accept what they are given. And what Rocky was given was a Klan member for an attorney. And I don't accept that, and nobody on this stage accepts that, and that is why we continue to just fight as hard as we can in the ways that we can to get him the trial that he deserves.
Thank you. Just to put that in context for a minute, and then Leah, I want to talk to you more about what you have discovered about this court-appointed attorney who was also a Klan member. This crime happened in 1991. This is the age of the super predator, where across the United States and certainly here in Alabama, our justice system was filling jails and prisons, particularly with black men. And the victim in this crime was a white woman. Rocky Myers did not have money to pay a high-powered attorney, and so what happened with him is what happens with any indigent person that doesn't have money. The court appointed an attorney. And that sort of dynamic really puts the defendant kind of at the mercy of whatever abilities or desire or bandwidth that particular attorney is willing to give to the case. That's why this is important. These discoveries about this individual are important because it tells us more about what the framework was going into this trial for Rocky. So Leah, you have been taking a closer look at this attorney that represented Rocky at trial, John Mays. You have, in fact, sat down with him and interviewed him. Tell us more about that experience. What have you learned? What does he say about all of this?
Thanks. So I was brought on after Miriam uncovered the initial information showing pretty definitively that John Mays was at least attending Klan rallies and declaring his allegiance to the Klan. Whether or not he was a member is impossible to say for sure because it's a secret society, but speaking at Klan rallies repeatedly is dispositive enough for me. John Mays passed the bar in September 1976, and by 1977, he was already representing senior members of the United Klans of America in a number of civil and legal matters around the Southeast in Alabama, but also had a lot of work in Kentucky. He was traveling to Florida with Robert Shelton, the founder and imperial wizard of the United Klans of America, to Virginia, Tennessee, Mississippi, and getting national coverage for his work to advance the Klan's white supremacist pro-segregation agenda on the civil side, and on the criminal side, to defend senior Klan leaders, so Grand Dragons, that was the state-level head of the Klan, exalted Cyclopses, that's like a more local level leader, and then there's the Imperial Wizard, they're nerds, who is the founder. These are silly names, but I just want to put this into context for everyone. The United Klans of America was responsible for the 16th Street Baptist Church bombing. They were responsible for the assassination of Viola Liuzzo, who was a civil rights worker, a white woman who traveled from Detroit in 1965 to Selma to join the march from Selma to Montgomery. You've probably heard this story. She was driving some of the marchers who lived in Selma back to Selma, and they were singing, and they were run off the road by a car full of Klan members, and she was shot and killed. Her family has written an extraordinary statement of support for Rocky, saying they lost their mother to the United Klans of America, and Leandrew and his family shouldn't lose their father to the same organization. So I want you to understand how close in time this is and how serious this organization was about carrying out its agenda. I sat down with John Mays in, about a year ago, almost exactly a year ago. He's still practicing law over on Moulton Street. And I had been told by some people I interviewed from your town who knew him that he was racist and that he was unflappable. Both of those things were true. He just denies that he was a Klan member. I pulled out a copy of the Fiery Cross, which was their quarterly newspaper. His name is in the masthead as one of the people responsible for the publication. And there's an article, the cover story was about this nasty little organization called the Southern Poverty Law Center that was trying to infiltrate the Klan. He said, yes, I wrote that. Bob asked me to, but I wasn't a member of the Klan. And I said, okay, how about this article where it says that you were imperial counsel to the Klan, and there's a picture of a burning cross and a rally that you were speaking at. And he said, it's imperial consul. But I rejected that title. But here's what he remembered about Rocky. He remembered Rocky was a crackhead who lived in a terrible neighborhood. I want to tell you what he remembered about Robert Shelton, imperial wizard and founder of the United Klans of America. Bob was misunderstood. He didn't order any of that violent stuff. He wasn't responsible for it. He got railroaded. So this is a man who has a very clear memory of the work he's done and who he's represented on cases that were important to him and people who he sees as misunderstood, complete human beings. Rocky is clearly not one of those people. I asked him what he would do if he were me, and he wanted to get justice for Rocky, and he told me he would try to seat an all-white jury because white people have a better understanding of what the black community is like than black people. Ooh. So that's what I learned sitting down with him. I since have knocked on some doors of people who were in his orbit back in the day. And a gentleman in Sylacauga answered his door and talked with us for 2 hours about John May's role in the Klan. He was the lawyer that was deployed by Tuscaloosa, which is where the national headquarters were. If you were a senior enough member, you could have him as your defense counsel, for free. The Klan would pay for it if you were charged with a criminal offense. So, a number of people have now come forward, and I want to tell you all something that I think sometimes gets lost in the writing and telling of this. It's so strange that I don't always remember to talk about it. I talked with a retired individual who used to work in the courthouse here about who John Mays was, and this person told me, yes, everybody knows John Mays is racist. He's put more black people in jail than some of the prosecutors have. And he said, actually, there's this item, there's a thing in the evidence locker that's like a commendation from the Klan to John Mays. And I said, oh, okay, can you tell me more about that? And he said, I don't know more, please, email the court reporter. So I did that, and I was able to confirm this thing exists. I don't know if John Mays won the Klan chili cook-off. I don't know if he won the most racist contest. But there is an item in the evidence locker of your courthouse that someone took at some point. I don't even think it was evidence in a case. I think it was more like somehow people came across it and it was a novelty, but it's really hard to tell because the judge has denied our request even to preserve it. Hopefully it's still there, But I keep thinking of Edgar Allan Poe's story, The Telltale Heart, where someone murders someone and then is driven mad by the heart beating. There is something in the courthouse that only people who have a key to the evidence locker can see. It is known to the people who know it, and it is unavailable to the rest of us. And I want to make sure that that's really driven home, because I know a question that comes up all the time is, why didn't we know earlier? Why didn't we talk about this earlier? One, newspapers.com didn't used to exist. But two, this topic is taboo. It's salacious. So there's the Clan Chili Cook-Off trophy in the evidence locker, or whatever it is. But we can't see it, you can't see it. Only the people with a key can see it. And that, I think, is like the heart of the matter in this case.
Thanks, Leah. Wow. And you know, just as I was listening to Leah talk, especially that last story that's kind of mind-blowing, you know, that courthouse, who does it belong to? It belongs to us. So that's why it's so important, I think, to open up these doors and shine lights into dark places, because we own those too. Those are ours. So, Casey, what are we to make of Rocky's original trial now that we know the man who was appointed to defend him was more than likely racist, almost certainly a member of the Klan, and appearing at Klan events? What are we to, how does that change our thinking, or does it change it? And how does the system view it?
For me, and I think for his legal team and those people who've been involved in his case over the years, that knowledge underpins something we already knew. When we went through John May's file, we found notes, handwritten notes, where he used the N-word in referring to jurors. We found evidence in the record itself, the trial, where John Mays appointed forced counsel for Rocky Myers, stood next to him at trial and said, well, you know, he was basically a street person when he came to me. He didn't have any family. He didn't have clothes. He missed the fact that Rocky Myers was the father of 4 children, a husband, a brother who had a family, who lived here in Decatur. He missed all those things, but he said them, and that missing them was intentional. He didn't care about the person next to him, and we now know even more why. But he continued through that trial talking to this mostly white jury and telling them that he was sorry for having to talk about the things that he was going to talk about. He was sorry that he was going to have to talk to these nice white people about his crackhead client who lived in the very pits of hell. And he was sorry that he was going to have to talk to them about this hellish, horrible neighborhood where decent people didn't live. That's the lawyer that he was given. And that is the speech that he gave to them at his opening statement defending Rocky. And in fact, it was struck such a note that in closing argument, the prosecutor used those same words. And he said, these are not my words. His lawyer used them. So we knew these things when we read those transcripts, when we looked in those notes. We knew that John Mays had been the lawyer for the United Klans of America in a civil suit related to the lynching of Michael Donald, a young black man that was lynched in Mobile, Alabama. We knew those things. What we didn't know, what we didn't have, were facts that we later found in these newspaper.com spaces looking outside of the state. So I think that they are a further light into what really did happen in that trial. But a lot of the pieces were there. We just didn't have enough evidence to move forward to make those claims in court. And that's the other piece, is that for Rocky, when he was, again, assigned counsel, because he was poor, he had an attorney who abandoned him. And because of that abandonment, we spent our time, the bulk of our time, in his federal appeals case, arguing why he should get to be heard in court. And ultimately, like, the federal court system said, no, you can't be heard on these claims because you didn't meet the deadlines. Yeah. So, like, he was essentially abandoned by counsel at trial because he was a racist who had such disdain for him that he did not do the job that he was given. He was abandoned by an attorney during his appeal process, and yet he's still here. He still has people fighting for him, people that care about him. And now he is represented by another counsel who has filed a claim here in the Morgan County Circuit Court arguing that he should get a new trial because of this deep conflict of counsel that essentially meant that he had no counsel during his trial.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but where that stands right now is the judge has given the DA's office a deadline to respond to that, right?
Yes.
And that's in late August?
Yes. In
Okay.
August.
And so the DA's office will respond, and then I guess the judge will make a determination of whether or not to go forward with some kind of proceeding to address all this?
Yes, so just a what happens next kind of moment. In the pleading filed by Rocky's state lawyers, they have asked for a full evidentiary hearing and an opportunity for discovery.
So that's what, if anybody is looking for something to pray for, that's it right there. But also stay tuned in to the developments in this case, because as Casey mentioned, this is in front of a judge in Morgan County, and the DA's office has to respond, and then we'll hope that the right thing happens. I want to open it up to questions in the audience, because I can imagine there's some questions.
Who's the judge? Someone else.
Who is the judge?
Judge Elliott?
Judge Elliott is the current judge assigned to the case. The judge who sat on his trial was McRae.
You other questions? I know there has to be.
Don't be shy.
Yes.
There's no right or wrong question.
I don't understand why the conviction can't just be vacated. It should be vacated. It's just completely obvious that it was a mock trial. It was a sham trial.
I agree. I think that is, it's a long, complicated process of how habeas cases, capital habeas cases work. There's literally diagrams and charts of like the 9 boxes of litigation, which really is actually about 12 boxes, but nobody talks about those. And the reality is that the hope, I think, in the justice system is that a verdict once rendered, that we should have faith in it, and it should be difficult to overturn such a verdict because of that kernel of faith in our Constitution and in the justice system. And I think the reality that these cases repeatedly show us is that is unfounded. There is a lack of faith because, one, people are fallible, human beings in that space, but also when you have deliberate bad actors in the system. And I think that is really what we see here, is a deliberate bad actor. And he was allowed by the state of Alabama, by the local bar, to hide in plain sight and to be appointed in these kind of cases. And, you know, hopefully in this space that creates the kind of doubt that we want to see and that a judge will recognize.
Hi. 2 questions. One, how's Rocky?
He is good. I actually talked to him this week, and I think Leandrew talked to him yesterday. And it is his birthday today. And I had it on good authority that he was saving some food to make himself his own casserole tonight.
Yes, okay. I'm familiar. What can we do, the people of Decatur, the people of Morgan County, the people in this room, what can we do?
Oh, I got a list. One is, you know, I am, and I will tell you, Rocky Myers is a big believer, and he has a man of deep faith. So prayer is always welcome and is incredibly important. Number 2, there are opportunities to outreach to your Morgan County officials, to the DA, to the mayor, to those folks, letting them know that people are watching. And I brought some postcards already addressed here today. If anybody wants a postcard, to take a postcard, share a postcard. But I think that's the thing, is that so many times things that happen in the courthouse they're not done in the dark because those doors are open, but people don't come. People don't watch. And I think judges and elected officials often forget that they are accountable to people. And when they know that people are watching, when they know that people are paying attention, I think that it does add pressure to do the right thing. And that's what we need right now, is some pressure to do the right thing.
What would be the decision exactly that you're hoping they make in August? And if it's not granted, what avenue would you take after that?
Ideally, and I would love in August, and again, I don't represent Rocky in this state action. In watching it and being a student of what happens in these capital cases, I would love in August or before August for the district attorney of Morgan County to say, you know what, we withdraw our objection to this Rule 32 petition and we agree. That would be lovely in a perfect world. If they continue to object, and right now the district attorney has filed a motion to dismiss the Rule 32. He's getting a second chance to respond. If they maintain that objection and motion to dismiss, then what I hope happens is that the judge denies their motion to dismiss and allows a hearing on the claim.
During your research, have you found other cases where the attorney was represented? During your research, have you found other cases, other death row cases that this particular attorney, the people that he represented?
I think the unfortunate reality and what we've kind of learned is that he did go on to become a popular lawyer for members of the Black community. And I think that's deeply concerning. I think, you know, he's had some successes and he's had some losses, and I think I know there's at least one individual
On death row, yeah.
Yeah, on the road that also have him as his attorney. So I hope that he still has attorneys and habeas, and they, you know, are following along and paying attention with, you know, what has gone on.
First of all, I'd like to thank all of you because you're doing amazing work. Secondly, this lawyer is going around telling people he helped get the Scottsboro boys pardoned, and that, I will tell you, is false. We had one meeting with him, and we didn't know who he was, and he's a misogynist too. He's an awful human being. So my question is, you had the governor who comes out and says, I have real doubts about this case. is there no pathway to go that, to get a pardon, to go to the Board of Pardons and Paroles and say, is there, that's just, apparently you can't do that because you'd be doing it?
There is a really weird pathway that way. But what you would have to do is the governor would have to be in support of the pardon, and the entire parole board would have to vote in favor of it. And that also relies on being able to prove that someone is innocent. So you have to meet like these three really heavy burdens. And we've already kind of gotten a sense from Governor Ivey's grant, right, that she was splitting the baby, right? I am deeply concerned about whether or not he's guilty, but I don't want to upset my base in this space. So I'm going to grant him clemency, but he will serve the rest of his life in prison. So we would have to meet these multiple things, and at this time, we don't see a pathway there.
Was the information on the lawyer available when you filed for the clemency?
No.
So that's on top of
Right.
beforehand.
Given all of this information that you have right now, and do you have any sense of what the DA's reluctance is to pursue this and to give the correct decision?
I think that this is very hard for people to wrap their head around. There's a culture, as Casey said, in the legal system, an expectation that once a case has been decided by a trier of fact and by a jury, that it is settled. We don't want to constantly be reopening things, is kind of what you hear from people. But I'll also say, I mean, there is also a history in Morgan County of sometimes being courageous. I know that you recently celebrated Judge Horton, who, did step up during the Scottsboro Boys case and take a position that he is remembered fondly for in this community to this day. So I can't speak to what Scott Anderson, your district attorney, is thinking or what the judge is thinking, but I hope they're thinking of Judge Horton, because it is possible as an elected official to do really hard, brave things. And I hope that that's the spirit that they feel drawn to as they move forward with Rocky's case. The Scottsboro Boys case was a long time ago. This is now. This is the chance to step up and be courageous now.
And I'm sorry, I know there was another question, but Leah, I want to thank you because, when you were talking about courage, I was kind of thinking, I was really happy to see Leandrew and his wife, Shauna, here. Not at all surprised, because Leandrew and Shauna show up all the time for Rocky and for events, rallies, whatever. And I met Leandrew as a grown man, but one of the things when I was reviewing the file, what I see is that, when Leandrew was 14 years old, he got on the stand to ask the jury to spare his father's life, to let his father live. And I'm not trying to put you out there, but now you're in your 40s, and you're still showing up to all these things and the fight and the courage that you have. And so, the question earlier, it was why keep looking at these things, how to keep doing these things, and everything takes courage. Writing a letter takes courage. Having conversations that you fear will cause conflict with family members, friends, coworkers, those things take courage. And I think I've been able to always find courage in Leandrew and the family and Rocky. And so I just wanted to thank you for that and acknowledge that. And I'm grateful that we're able to do this event here in your community, and you can look around and see that you will have support moving forward. I love y'all.
we do appreciate all that y'all are done, and was not familiar with this case at all until it came to our attention here at our church. But back in the day, when this happened, or even probably prior to that, I was involved with legal services and worked with a lot of the attorneys, worked with the Tommy Lee Hines case. And back in the day, we all knew John Mays represented the Klan. So my question is, how did that not, was it that you didn't have proof of that? You know, I mean, that's just my word saying, yes, we knew John Mays represented the Klan. We always knew that back in the 90s, back in the 80s. But I mean, I didn't have a newspaper article. We just knew it.
I think there's a couple of answers to that. You know, one of them is that representing the Klan and being a Klan member are two completely different things. The American Civil Liberties Union represents the Klan regularly because they believe that even the worst speech shouldn't be regulated by the government. And that is a principled decision on their part. You might disagree with it, but it is a decision that holds true, you know, regardless of the content of the speech. So knowing he represented the Klan, well, we represent people convicted of murder. So who a lawyer represents does not necessarily reflect on the lawyer. What matters is that he was a Klan member. He spoke at Klan rallies, 9 of them. He traveled the country with the Imperial Wizard. And that might have been known in some circles. I certainly, as I was calling retired elected officials, got the sense that there was whispering that perhaps he was more than just a person who represented the Klan. But now I'm going to use clannish with a C. Lawyers can be clannish. Lawyers sometimes back each other up. I had someone call it the suit wall of silence to me one time. So at best it was an open secret. Again, we have this item in the evidence locker, known to the people with the key and not known to the rest of us, and very, very hard to talk about. I'd invite everybody here to read Dr. Edwin Bridges' declaration, where he wrote, Dr. Bridges was Alabama's state archivist from 1983 to 2013, I believe. And when he inherited the state archives, it was basically a museum celebrating the Confederacy. And when he left, I don't know if anybody has visited the Alabama Department of Archives and History Museum, but it's something you'd be proud to take your kids to. It is a clear-eyed view of Alabama history, warts and all. It's really beautifully done. And I asked Dr. Bridges to talk about both the nuts and bolts of developing and collecting public history. So, you know, he told me about scanning all of these newspapers and deploying, you know, teams of people around the state to make sure that newspapers from the past were preserved, putting them on microfiche, and then the incredible revolution that happened when we had word searchable databases like newspapers.com. That didn't come online until 2012, and they're still adding newspapers now. But he also talked about sort of the cultural change in what was able to be said.
Yeah.
Even now, as I have been making phone calls to people and talking with your neighbors about Mr. Mays, some people have said that I should not talk about the Klan stuff. And I have trouble understanding why. I think some people are concerned for my safety, but I think people just feel like it's in poor taste. Yeah. Like, he's a weird uncle and it's water under the bridge, but it's not, because Rocky's alive and he's still in prison and it's urgent to get him out. So however uncomfortable it might make them, or me. Rocky is much more uncomfortable. He's the main character, and his life is the one on the line.
Do we have any more questions or any time for questions?
We have
What,
time
maybe
for
one
one
more?
more quick question.
Thank you. I have, I guess, two. Does writing D.A. Anderson, and does that persuade him or do anything? Like us writing him, could that help at all?
I believe so. And I think it's also, I know that not writing him doesn't do anything at some point. And so I think hearing from people in the community is really important. I will tell you, we know from Governor Ivey, I think one of my favorite things was hearing from people in Governor Ivey's office that we just got this stack of mail about Rocky Myers. We've gotten this stack of stuff. The voicemail is full. You know, keeping people in somebody else's mind, I think, is incredibly important because these should be difficult decisions. I mean, honestly, it should be an easy decision, but to change from their current position is hard, and I think they have to have motivation to do it, and I think people's voices can be that motivation.
And then second, I just finished the Corpus Delicti podcast. Sorry if I butchered that. That's a hard word. And I know that one of the things that they talked about was the Judith Nail.
Ann Neely.
Ann Neely. There we go. I'm
Judith
sorry.
Neely.
Ann Neely. I'm sorry. That case, with him being granted clemency, does that change anything going forward because of the serving life without parole? Okay.
No. And because after Judith Ann Neely was granted clemency, the legislature passed the Judith Ann Neely law, is what they called it, because when she was granted clemency, it was not clear what would happen. And so she actually has an opportunity for parole, but because the legislature came in and passed the new law, clemency now only gives you a life without parole sentence.
And she has come up for parole and has not been granted, and I don't think that she'll ever be granted parole. But yeah, that really closed the door on anything.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Miriam. Thank you, Casey. Thank you, Leah. And thank you, Beth.
Thank you.
It means so much to have people willing to dedicate so much of their time, so much of their life for justice. And we truly, truly appreciate you coming this journey. Thank you guys all for being here. And thank you to the reconciliation team who put this together. Thank you for the justice warriors out there. And all of you I will consider to be justice warriors because you've done more than hope. You've taken your energy and your time to show up. And maybe that seems like a small step, but that's a huge way forward. Showing up is a huge way forward. I know we're out of time for questions, but we do have, our panel is willing to meet with us in the fellowship hall where we'll take a moment to celebrate Rocky's birthday. It is Rocky's birthday, and maybe we'll be able to send him the best wishes possible, enjoy cake and some water or coffee, and to ask more questions again of the panel. I can't thank you enough for what you've done here. For continuing to hope and to pray for justice to be served. If you don't mind, I'd like to close us with a little bit of prayer. After I close with the prayer, our panel is going to leave through here and take just a moment. And Pastor Jesse is standing here, and they will direct us around to the fellowship hall. If you do not want to stay for cake, you're welcome to leave through the doors in the front of the church where you came in, but we do hope you'll stay. So if you would, please pray with me. Eternal God, your Torah teaches us, Tzedek, Tirdof, justice shall you pursue. Let that pursuit begin with us. Give us courage when the path is difficult, wisdom when the answers are unclear, and compassion when our hearts grow weary. May we remember that every human life is sacred. Every act of mercy matters. And every voice raised for justice helps bring healing to this world. May we leave this place committed not only to hope for justice, but to pursue it with humility, perseverance, and love. Amen.
I would love it if everybody in here would maybe be willing to sing happy birthday and let me record it so I can play it for Rocky later.
You want to do it in here or do it around the cake? Okay. While everybody is still here, if you're not, since some of us may not be going to the fellowship hall, if you're willing, we would love to sing happy birthday to Rocky so that it can be recorded. I'm just going to hum. Okay, and maybe come in together. In the middle?